Hey, what's going on, guys? Brandon here with Texas Plinking Gear with a big piece of gear to show off if there ever was one. This is the Barrett M82A1. So we're going to go ahead and get into it. A lot of information on this might be misconstrued. You might know all about it. You want to see more content on it, and I don't blame you. But certainly even non-gun people know about this gun. They know the silhouette. They know the muzzle brake even. Just through video games, movies, and all that kind of stuff. But even if you're kind of into the subject of shooting, or even not, some of the information on this rifle might, like I said, kind of been misconstrued. So we're going to go ahead and straighten that up. But more than anything, it's going to be just slightly beyond a surface level review. Go slightly surface level and then dive in where I think it's kind of entertaining or there's some important things to talk about. But overall, it's a gun that I've had for a few years now. I love it dearly. It's not going anywhere. So I figured why not give it a little bit more attention on the review channel. So let's go ahead and dive into it. And all the while, I'm going to show some footage from the main channel, that's Texas Plinking, over the last 4 years of all that Texas-sized plinking I've done with this gun. It's quite the party piece. I'm looking forward to talking about it a little bit more. It's always a good day when it comes out of the safe. So let's go ahead and get into it. So this here is the Barrett M82A1. Like I mentioned, I want to talk about a little bit of the differences between this and the M107. Sometimes those two terms are kind of intermingled. Interestingly, and I don't blame the people who kind of intermingle those terms between M82 and M107, because as you see it from the military, it seems to only be this configuration. The all black, of course they could spray paint them, with the arrowhead muzzle brake, just this exact configuration with no cheek piece here, that, fatter stock piece, whatever that is, that monopod. It seems like the military always has this, but their depiction will go between M82 and M107. And really, it's the exact same gun, just depends on the marking. However, so far on the civilian market, M107 is slightly different. It's a little bit more modernized, slightly. Most notably, it's got a different muzzle brake rather than the arrowhead that's iconic on the M82 with the 2 ports on each side with that arrowhead look. The M107 for the civilian market has got 8 ports, 4 on each side, and it's got the QDL attachment point for Barrett suppressor, so you can suppress the 50 BMG. Another big design piece is that this little piece right here, on the stock where the monopod attaches, is a little bit thinner. You also have a cheek piece right here. That is just to avoid some heat if it's been sitting in the sun a lot. It's a polymer piece, so it doesn't get as hot as that metal. As well as the monopod shape a little different. As far as the internals, they changed a few things. Some items that aren't under any stress whatsoever that were constructed out of steel, they went for aluminum. So overall, it actually ends up shaving about, 6-7 pounds, something like that, with both of them being the 29-inch barrel configurations. So that's the difference with the civilian M107. As far as the military, they seem to only use this configuration, but they'll call it both ways. Now, both the 107 and the 82 have 2 different offerings on barrel lengths. This here is more of the iconic one that you're used to seeing. This is a 29-inch barrel, which is certainly plenty of barrel to get some velocity out of that 50 BMG. They also offer those guns with a 20-inch barrel. It's funny because a 20-inch barrel on like an AR, for example, looks super long. But all of a sudden you see a 20-inch barrel on a M107 or 82, and it looks like an SBR because it's like abnormally short. My goal before too long is to keep this gun and to add a M107 with a 20-inch barrel, planning on suppressing it more often. So that way with the suppressor it kind of takes that same size, but you're shooting suppressed 50 BMG. That's later on. Right now I'm happy with this 82 in front of me. If you went with the 20-inch barrel, you're going to save quite a bit of weight as well. So the lightest form of a Barrett, semi-auto 50 BMG is going to be an M107 with the 20-inch barrel. Like I said, that's the one I'm wanting later. But all I know is on the 82, that's all I'm going to talk about. 82 with the 29-inch barrel, what I have here, weighs 28.5 pounds, which may sound like a lot, may not sound like a lot. In any case, it's a lot. You don't realize it till you hold the Ergonomics or something that feels like a gun. Because if you just pick up a 30-pound dumbbell, it doesn't seem too bad. All of a sudden, you pick up 28.5 pounds of a gun, and it's heavy because a lot of that is that barrel. It has a very thick barrel, and all that starts from here to here, so it's very front heavy. And it's just a heavy gun. Once you put an optic on there, all that kind of stuff, this is a Leupold ERT 4 to 14, something like that. I got to double check by 50. With the Barrett rings, all said and done, on the scales, my scales anyway, it's about 31 or a little over 31 pounds last I checked, and for a gun that's pretty darn good weight. Not too practical for hunting and running around, but certainly that's not why I got this. So that said, because of that weight, it actually makes the shooting experience a little bit more pleasurable than one might think. We'll get on that a little bit in a second here. We're not going to go total forgotten weapons mode here and go too far into the history, but we're going to go a little bit just because I think there's some pretty cool things to admire about it. So this gun came into fruition in 1982. It's where it got its name, probably M for model if I had to guess, so model M82. But a gentleman named Ronnie Barrett thought about this in his head. He, at this time, before the 80s, if you thought about a 50 BMG, it was something that was probably mounted on a tripod and belt fed. The good old, Moses Browning designed the Browning machine gun, which BMG stands for, in case you didn't know. But that was what the 50 was. Otherwise, they were 50 BMG machine guns mounted on the side of airplanes and all that kind of stuff. Ronnie Barrett decided that he wanted to see if he could make a wieldable 50 BMG, wieldable, being perspective-wise, it's not on a plane, it's not on a Humvee, it's not anything like that. A rifle, a one-man rifle chambered in 50 BMG that was semi-automatic. So that was the brainchild. And so that being said, once it came into fruition, considering other 50 BMGs, it was very lightweight. So it was kind of named like the Light 50. And it really is. Of course, nowadays we have like bullet action 50s, all kind of stuff that would maybe even get close to being half the weight of this. But for what it is, a semi-auto 50 BMG. It's light compared to mounted machine guns, of course. That being said, now that we have something that kind of resembles a long rifle with an optic, its depiction can be misconstrued. Some people will say that this is the most powerful sniper rifle ever devised. But the thing is, it is powerful, yes, but it's not a sniper rifle. So what this is, it was kind of called by the military in a way, an anti-material rifle. Whatever that material is, that needs to be taken care of. That being said, it could be for armored vehicles, it could be satellites, it could be bombs. I know that Marine, with surface level knowledge, I never served, but I appreciate those that do. I know that the Marines would use this alongside, or at least they used to, I don't know their main weapon now, I think they picked up the MRAD, but I know that they would be alongside a Barrett M82 or 107 with the M40, so they might use it on soft targets like personnel and all that kind of stuff. And I believe the Army used it in its explosive ordnance disposal. So if there was a bomb or what they believe to be a bomb from far away, they don't want to send someone to go try to defuse it or anything like that. They could just go ahead and poke it from some distance with the 50 BMG, and the 50 had some power. That being said, the 50 BMG is such a big bullet that you can have some creativity with it, whereas a 5.56 is a very small bullet. You can't do too much. Of course, could be tracers and armor penetrating, but when you have that much more mass, like a 660 grain bullet, you could go ahead and fill that in with some other stuff. You could do armor penetrating incendiary stuff. The Ralphus Mark II 11 round is a bullet I made a video on the main channel. Very impressive stuff. So you could go ahead and use something that weighs over 650 grains with armor penetrating, with incendiary, and you could go ahead and detonate anything that might be a bomb. So that's where it kind of put its role here. That being said, it is not a sniper rifle, but it has been used on soft targets, like I said, from some extreme ranges. That's why sometimes it gets a bad rap for its lack of accuracy. Accuracy, you have to remember, is all about perspective. A 22 long rifle can be more accurate than this thing, depending on the range. If we're shooting a custom, totally built precision 22 long rifle for that 100 yard kind of competitions, 50 to 100 yards, yes, that one will shoot dimes, and this one will not. But if we're gonna be shooting 1 mile away, this is more accurate than a 22 long rifle custom rifle. I know that sounds like a very silly thing to say, but I'm just trying to defend this M82 because it gets a bad rap for being not accurate. It is as accurate as it needs to be for its given role. If we're talking about a precision rifle meant to take out personnel, that thing better be a sub-MOA gun, meaning 1 inch per 100 yards. You can shoot within 1 inch at 100, you can shoot within 10 inches at 1,000 yards. That's what you need for a precision gun like that. Considering the targets of this are more so, can often be sized like a barn door, it doesn't need to be that. So what it ends up being, I will say, my best grouping with it was 1 inch at 100. That was an anomaly. I try to repeat that. I'm getting between 2.5 and 3.5, sometimes 4 inches at 100 yards with some not very high quality ammo. If I shot Hornady 750 grain AMAX rounds, it'll probably cut that in half. So I could probably consistently get 1 to 2 MOA. And that's actually incredible considering what it is. But let's just say it's a 3 MOA gun, which is pretty standard. What we need to remember is that think of an accuracy as a cone. It starts off nice and narrow because that's you're shooting close range. And as you shoot, it widens and widens. That's the MOA, 1 inch at 100 yards, 10 inches at 1,000. That's the cone of accuracy. Let's say we're shooting precision 6.5 Creedmoor. What ends up happening is we're consistent, and then once we start finding the effective range of a 6.5, let's just call it 1,500 yards. I know it could go a little beyond that, but that's roughly when they might kind of start tumbling because they're not supersonic anymore. What we have is a consistent MOA graph, and then it just falls out. So now we have this huge broad span, and that's where the effective range on a gun is kind of deemed as soon as, right before that happens. Again, that's probably dictated off of just whether it goes from supersonic to subsonic. So that exponential, again, so your MOA, consistent, and a 6.5 at 1,500 yards will fall off. I've shot a 6.5 at a mile. You can still get it in there, but not as effective. This thing at 100 yards starts off wider, and that's why it gets its bad rap for being not accurate. But it starts off wider, and what you need to know, it stays that consistent, and it expands. So it's 3 MOA. At least it stays 3 MOA out to over a mile away. So there is this point to where it crosses back over, and it's now more accurate than a short action or even a long action precision rifle, even like a 338 Lapua. So that's where these big bores are meant to shine, is long engagement, give a broad area, and just put a lot of heat in that area. So in that sense, it's just as accurate as a sniper rifle, considering a sniper is meant to take out personnel, and this is meant to take out armored vehicles, if that makes sense. Being that it weighs over 30 pounds, the way it's equipped as you see it, it's got the 2 springs here that slow it down. It's got that massive muzzle brake, the buffer spring here, 3 points of contact with the ground, bipod and monopod. All that being said, it is a very fun gun to shoot. Yes, it rocks your world a little bit, but not in a bad way. It's not just a novelty, hurtful gun, the way maybe a 500 Magnum snub nose or an elephant rifle might be. You could actually shoot this, personally in my opinion, all day, given you had the budget for the ammo. Right now, I'm just feeding it some 660 grain FMJs. I paid about $2.50 a round for. That being said, let's get into pricing a little bit. This MSRP is for a little over $8,100. I think it was $8,116. I picked it up a few years ago. I was able to get it on Gunbroker. I paid with a check and all that stuff to avoid all the fees I possibly could. I ended up paying about $7,000. I think everything, shipping and everything. Ships in a cool Pelican 1750 hard case. On the other end, the reason I'm kind of slow to get out M107 is the market's never calmed down on that thing. They've always sold for about MSRP or even more. They're about $11,000 or more. I think the cheapest one I've seen was a used one at $10,500. So I'll be patient. I won't rush that one, but when that happens, that'll be pretty darn cool. You actually have, I should have mentioned this, it's kind of interesting. You have some backup iron sights. So if the scope was in there, I could flip that up. And actually very nice iron sights. They have like little click values, range estimations kind of stuff. Pretty darn cool. Might be kind of fun to try to shoot 1,000 yards with iron sights. Maybe I'll do that with the M107 whenever I get it before I put an optic on. That'd be kind of cool. Anyway, I believe I ran through as much as I wanted to here. Might not have been too long of a video considering it was a review on the M82, but like I said, it wasn't a total analytical video. I just kind of wanted to give a little bit more attention to it, show some old footage and all that fun stuff. Quite a fun gun, one of my favorites. I never shoot it alone. I always make it a party, and everyone always gets a big kick out of it. Anyway, that does it for this one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.